All right, so we're diving into this whole PMRE thing, this Photography and Media for Real Estate conference. Lots of buzz. Is it worth it? Is it really the key to, like, taking your real estate media business to the next level?
Well, the thing about PMRE is, it's not your typical conference. It's not just about gear and tech.
Right, right.
It's really evolved into something much bigger, more strategic.
Okay, so what do you mean? Like, what's the big takeaway for someone who's thinking, should I go to Vegas for this?
Think of it as this, like concentrated dose of business strategy, trends in the industry, and really importantly, networking. And it's all tailored specifically for these real estate media creators.
Right, and that's a big deal because we hear all the time, this industry can be a little isolating, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're out there on your own, if you're a solopreneur.
Absolutely. And that's something that Brandon, the organizer, really emphasized in the interview.
Yeah.
He himself started solo, so he gets it. And whether you're a one-person show or running a whole agency, these connections, these insights, they can be game changers.
Yeah, and that story that he told about having lunch, remember, with that guy who was just a couple years ahead of him?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. He was like, that one conversation saved me months of headache.
Exactly. And those are the kind of aha moments PMRE is all about,
Yeah.
You tap into the wisdom of people who've walked in your shoes, faced the same hurdles. It's like a fast track almost.
Like a shortcut. Okay, so we're hearing PMRE is not just about the tech, it's about strategy, it's about connecting. But what about the actual stuff people are learning? What are they talking about there?
Well, one of the things that really intrigued me is this new day 3 they've added, and it's all about branching out beyond residential photography.
Now, I can see some people listening thinking, hold on, I'm good with houses. Why would I care about commercial stuff?
Right, and it's not that you have to abandon residential at all. It's more like you've got the skills, you've got the equipment, right?
Right.
So why not explore some additional revenue stream?
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Right, and Brandon gave examples like hotels, retail spaces. He even mentioned high-end architectural photography, which can be very lucrative.
Oh, yeah, totally.
What's smart about PMRE's approach is they're not saying drop everything and become a commercial photographer. It's about how do you diversify? How do you make your business more resilient, especially with the market doing what it's doing?
That's huge.
It is. And it kind of ties back into that whole fork in the road thing,
Fork in the road.
Yeah, that Brandon talked about. That moment a lot of us hit where we have to decide, do we specialize, go high end, be like the artist of real estate photography?
Right.
Or do we scale up, build a whole agency, manage a team?
Big decisions.
They are. And honestly, both can be super rewarding. But knowing which path, which one really fits you, that's key.
Okay, yeah.
And at PMRE, you're surrounded by people who've gone down both roads. Imagine just grabbing a coffee, with someone who's built that amazing boutique business, charging top dollar. Or you're hanging out, having a beer with someone who's running this big agency, and they can tell you, this is how I price things out, this is how I manage a team, that kind of stuff.
That's invaluable, man.
It is. It really is.
And when it comes to finding those people who have walked those different paths, PMRE seems to really excel at the whole networking thing.
Absolutely. And you're right. It's not just about soaking up information, right? You've got to connect with the right people, bounce ideas, build those relationships.
And from what I'm hearing, PMRE really gets that. I mean, they've even designed specific spaces for it this year, like the PMRE Lounge. And then there's something called Vendor Alley, right? What are those all about?
So imagine, right, a space that's made for just hanging out and talk and shop with other attendees. That's the PMRE Lounge. You grab a coffee, strike up a conversation, maybe meet a future client or collaborator. And then Vendor Alley, that's where the big players in the industry, the tech companies, are showing off their newest, coolest stuff. You can get hands-on, ask questions directly to the people who make the gear.
So it's not just booths, it's interactive.
Exactly.
That makes sense. It's like they've created this environment where those serendipitous connections can happen. Those moments that you can't always plan for.
It's true, Sometimes the most valuable contacts come from those chance encounters.
For sure. And speaking of valuable, what about the learning opportunities? What kind of speakers and sessions really stand out this year?
Well, one that caught my eye is this panel discussion on the future of real estate media. And they've managed to snag some seriously big names like presidents and VPs from major 3D companies, Matterport, IGII, Cubicasa.
Wow, those are some heavy hitters. So what are they going to be digging into?
Well, they're tackling some big questions about where this industry is headed, what trends are emerging, what new technologies are on the horizon, and even things like what happens when these huge companies buy up smaller players. How does that impact everyone else?
That's happening more and more, so it's a valid question.
Right. Like, how does that affect pricing, competition, the creative direction of the whole industry.
And more importantly, what can individual creators like us do to adapt and thrive in that environment?
Exactly. And to top it off, they've got Reed Fesha, the host of the Upmarket podcast, moderating the whole thing.
Oh, he's great. I love his podcast. Always asks the insightful questions.
Right. So you know it's going to be a really engaging, thought-provoking discussion. And it's not just about predicting the future, right? It's about giving people actionable steps they can take now.
So we're talking practical advice, not just pie-in-the-sky ideas. Love it.
Exactly. It's about equipping yourself for whatever comes next in the world of real estate media.
Speaking of equipping yourself, one speaker I'm really curious to hear from is Danny Bertolo. He's that guy from Australia creating those insane cinematic real estate videos.
Oh, yeah. Danny Bertolo. His work is next level.
It's like he's not just showcasing a property, he's making a mini movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the feeling I get from PMRE overall. They're pushing the boundaries,
Totally. And speaking of pushing boundaries, Danny's actually doing a workshop, too, where you can learn his techniques firsthand.
Oh, wow. So you can actually get in the trenches with him and learn how he does it.
Yeah, dive deep into his creative process. Lighting, composition, storytelling. Imagine spending a day learning from a guy like that.
Sign me up. I'd love to pick his brain. Okay, so we've got future trends, we've got pushing creative limits, but what about the nitty-gritty of running the business? Any speakers standing out in that area?
Well, for that, I'd say keep an eye out for Alexandria Bramian. She's like the publicity guru.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of her. She's got that incredible background in, like, high-end design publications. Right?
Exactly. Architectural Digest, Elle Decor. She knows what those folks are looking for.
Because it's one thing to take amazing photos or videos, but getting them in front of the right people is a whole other game.
100%. And she's going to be sharing her strategies for doing just that. How do you stand out in a crowded market? How do you get your work noticed by those high-end clients?
It's like she's giving away the secrets to building a luxury brand.
Yeah. Basically. And it's not about being salesy or anything like that. It's more about how do you tell your story? How do you connect with those clients on a deeper level?
Which kind of brings us back to what we were talking about earlier, right? It's about authenticity.
Absolutely. It's about building a business that's true to you, a brand that reflects your style.
And creating work that you're really proud of.
Couldn't said it better myself.
So look, if you're serious about taking your real estate media business to that next level, PMRE seems like the place to be this November.
Absolutely. And don't forget, they've got that registration insurance, so for a small fee, you're covered if something comes up and you can't make it.
Nice. Always good to have a backup plan. So what are you waiting for? Head over to PMREconference.com, check out the full lineup, and grab your ticket. Use code WGNU100 to check out for a special discount. That's WGAN100. Who knows, maybe we'll see you in Vegas.